Guys, before we start today's video, a little word from our sponsor, me. As you guys know, I've set up affiliate links and stuff down below. I basically have set my channel up so that you guys purchasing things at no additional cost to you sponsors the channel. So if you guys are purchasing any of the items you see on the channel, please take a look at the affiliate links down below for other things. Tools, knives, stones. I even have a Blade HQ affiliate link, Coffee Brand Coffee, and a VPN. So guys, without any further ado, here comes that studio intro. Guys, what are we going to look at today? Well, we are going to look at a take on a knife that we've already seen. This is the Ferrum Forge Titanium frame lock stinger with fat carbon fiber insert. So without any further ado, guys, you know what time it is. We're going to take a look at this from above, but first, here comes a little bit of music. So turn down that volume. Guys, we are going to take a look at this real quick. Now, I've carried my prototype of the original liner lock stinger for a very long time. I've had it since before the actual original run of stingers came out. This is my personal one. Elliot gave this to me as a gift. It was a prototype, and I got to carry it. He wanted my opinions on it, and when I got done with it, he told me I could keep it. So I already know enough about this knife that the minor changes does not mean that I have to do a first day in pockets and things like that. So what we're going to look at is just the little things that I've noticed, but we are going to pull up the specs. So off here to the right, you're going to see the spec sheet for this Ferrum Forge KnifeWorks Stinger Titanium frame lock. So yeah, this is a really nice knife. It's done in titanium, Nitro V, frame lock with uni copper carbon fiber. And I'm one of those guys, I remember when carbon fiber first started becoming a thing that ever even got talked about in anything, in the news and stuff like that. And then I also remember when they first started using it as knife scale material. It came out and was really popular because it's super light, but it's attractive. And now they've went a step further and they've gotten carbon fiber down to a form where it's easier to work with and it's attractive. Like, that is just beautiful. You've got two different directions of carbon fiber where you can see the different directions of the layering and the copper. So it's kind of cool to see that come all the way around. But let's go ahead and get into this knife. So you already saw the specs. Now, I have owned, like I said, the original for a long time, and I love it. It's one of my favorite small everyday duty carry knives. And that they finally brought it out in a frame lock, which a lot of people like, is pretty cool. And you still have those same looks, that same styling, definite things that Elliot has put into play and thought about to make sure comfort levels, none of the things that I've complained about in several knives recently, are present. This is nice and soft, and it's not bad at all. You've got a nice thin blade, nice and light. We're gonna get the scale and stuff out. You've got this really functional blade that comes down nice and thin behind the edge, and you have the aesthetics of this fuller. Now, I will say something I don't like is the fact that they made the fuller shorter. On the original runs, the fuller was a good bit longer, and it looks like they've cut it almost in half. Overall, that doesn't really change it, except it changes that look. And if you're gonna do something like I did, where you're gonna modify it, put some red ceramic down in that, you get a bigger pop. But really not a big difference. So like I said, I haven't used this very much. It is a Nitro V. It came really sharp. I think that this has already maybe been sharpened by the owner. I don't see that as a factory edge. But yeah, this thing is nice and sharp, nice and clean lines, and it really goes with the aesthetic that you had here, especially with this. Now that tapping you here, my pocket clip is sprung. So let's go ahead and we'll look at the blade stock thickness, behind the edge thickness, and the weight, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I feel in this knife might be lacking. Yes, I said it. I'm going to say disparaging things about a Ferrum Forge knife. So let's go ahead and get the calipers out and take a look at the blade stock thickness and behind the edge thickness. Zeroed this on a feeler gauge. So blade stock thickness on this, I'm going to say, is going to be very thin. 0.012 is probably about an accurate call on that. That's not a very thick blade stock at all. Behind the edge thickness, now the nice thing about this is thin blade stock, broad blade, that gives you a lot of time to transition down to a thinner behind the edge thickness. Let's try and get that right on there. 0.020, which is a fairly thin behind the edge. I know that I slid down a little bit, but it was 0.20 when we started. Now, overall thickness of the knife, I know I usually don't do this, but this is a fairly thin knife. So let's go ahead and put that up in fractions. You are looking at 25/64, 13/32 behind across the back. So you're looking at just under like 0.4 inches, so under half an inch wide. So it's a fairly thin profiled knife. I haven't done that before in the videos, and I don't know why. I should start doing that. But yeah, fairly thin profiled knife. Let's go ahead and get this stuff out of the way and get the scale set up and take a look at the weight. So on weight, you are looking in ounces at about 2 5/8 ounces. This is a fairly light knife. In comparison, this knife is 2 3/4. So they're very similar in weight between the frame lock and the liner lock. Let's look at it in grams. For those of you that don't use Freedom units, 76 grams. Not a heavy knife at all, very light. A lot of that, I would say, has to do with the amount of titanium that's been milled out to allow for that carbon fiber inlay. So let's go ahead and get this scale out of the way, and let's talk about some of the stuff that I'm not super keen about, since we've already talked about all the stuff that's good about the knife in other videos. We'll touch on that as well, but mainly I'm going to talk about the stuff I don't like, which is very few. So like I said, with this just being a different version of the same knife, I'm not got so many things. Like, I'm just like, well, it's pretty much the same knife, but there are some minor differences. First and foremost, the size of this fuller. So it seems to me that the fuller has been shortened quite a bit. Well, it doesn't seem to me. It's quite obvious it is. Mike, you're an idiot. It's obvious that they've shortened that down. Now, I don't know what maybe that was cost saving, because extra machine time per side of the blade, that's extra machine time. That's doubling it on both sides. So could just be a cost saving thing, or it might just be that they didn't like the aesthetic. But I personally like the big fuller that went the whole length of the blade. Now, I can't honestly say, I believe that the original run had that. That original run may have changed, because this is a prototype, but I really love the way this looks versus that. There are some minor things that I don't like about this one. It doesn't have, I've gotten used to the texture of the G10 on my prototype, and I don't have that. So it feels a little bit slicker. So, and I think it just kind of feels like the jimping. I don't know if it's maybe because I refinished it and blasted it, but it feels like that jimping is a little bit softer. Let's compare them side by side. They look almost the same, but it just feels like these are a little more aggressive than these. Those are only a couple little things. There is one that I'm going to mention in a minute, but one of the things I wanted to say is, as opposed to having an actual backspacer, this is a two-piece clamshell where you only have basically one screw holding the knife, two screws holding the knife together. You have this screw here and the pivot screw. Now, I haven't taken it apart, but I'm pretty sure that this is just a surface screw. I do not believe that has anything to do with the construction. So, I mean, that minimizes it. You've got less hardware. It's a cleaner look. And then you have actual screwed down inlays. So if you wanted to take that out, you probably could, like if you wanted to anodize this. So that's good thinking. There's less parts, less things to lose and stuff like that. Now, the action on this, typical of any of the Ferrum Forge knives that I've seen that are made by We, it is great. It's not drop shut, but it is shake shut. This, I'm sure, over time will break in and become even smoother. Some of that might have to do with blade finish and stuff like that. And Nitro V steel does have a tendency to break in and get smoother as time goes. This one is pretty much drop shut. This is in 9CR because it was a prototype, but it was like that when I first started messing with it. So you're going to have some break-in on these that's going to just get smoother with time. Clean it up, put some different lubricant in it, see what works best for you. But the big one that I'm not a big fan of, and I'm going to say, I have turned almost into a liner lock convert. I didn't like liner locks for a long time because I hadn't gotten any good ones. They were all weak. They felt like they were going to slip. They were garbage liner locks. And it's because of previous experience with cheaper knives. But this, you lose a little bit of comfort. And I've said this a couple times, and I'm starting to hear myself say it more often. In a frame lock, you wind up losing where that feels really great in hand right there, and it's not really got anything. Even though this is really well chamfered and softened, it's not a hot spot. You still can feel that. It's not so much that it's hot, but you can feel the difference in that you don't feel here. And I just find that I'm starting to gravitate more towards liner locks. I love a good frame lock. Some of my favorite knives have been frame locks, but as I'm starting to go back and revisit, I'm noticing I like liner locks. Now, I will say I was never a fan of the pocket clip on this. I've told Elliot that before. I don't like this pocket clip. That pocket clip is a little tall for my preference. It's not as clean feeling in hand as a lot of the other Ferrum Forged knives pocket clips. So that's one of the big ones. I don't like the pocket clip, but then again, that's not a change. That's nothing new from this version or from this version to that version, because that's the exact same pocket clip. Not a fan of the pocket clip. If I wanted to, I'm sure I could find a pocket clip that would slide down in there like that. And that's the other thing. They did a really good job with one screw having a pocket clip. I wanted to mention this, even though I don't like the pocket clip, it is very deep carry. It's all the way to the top deep carry. This cutout allows you to have one single screw and there's no play. That's been my biggest complaint with some pocket clips, is that they use one screw or they do these tall pocket clips and then they just slide everywhere. Case in point, when we do the size comparison, I'll show you what I'm talking about. You don't have that in these knives. Elliot, that's one of Elliot's pet peeves, is when a pocket clip slides. And so he basically, you mill out that area, it gives it some support around it, and then you screw it down and you're good. So let's go ahead and get some knives out and do some size comparison. First knife to compare it to, the one that most people are going to see on a lot of channels and know pretty much the size of, the Sebenza. It's a good bit smaller than the Chris Reeve Sebenza, probably about 1.5 inches overall length difference. Benchmade 940 is a little closer, but still a little bit bigger than this. But what you're getting is pretty much the same size EDC, pivot to pivot. Blade length is a little bit, but this is a much better cutter than this knife. I've said that a bunch of times. The Benchmade 940 is just too thick to cut real well. Still love it, but just one of those knives. And then this is that PMP Big Boy. And I got it out for two reasons, because I knew I was going to talk about pocket clip. This is a big knife. So you're getting a pocket-friendly EDC with a really good blade. And when I was talking about pocket clips at play, there's a lot of pocket clips that just have a large amount of play in them. This knife is so comfortable that I overlook that, which is out of character for me. But yeah, I don't like when a pocket clip does that, and that's one of the things that I do love about the fact that Elliot put that into thought. So let's get these out of the way. Talking point. I have to admit, you're not getting a lot more out of this than you are this when you look at price. So this knife, for all intents and purposes, these knives are the same. If you purchase this knife from Blade HQ, you're looking at $89. Nitro V steel, Nitro V steel. Steel liner lock running on bearings. Titanium frame lock running on bearings. You don't get much more except the way it looks. This knife is $210 on Blade HQ. Now, I will tell you, I have an affiliate link for Blade HQ. It'll be the top one you guys see. If you're going to purchase either one of these knives, I'd appreciate it if you did it. It supports the channel. But Blade HQ's price for this is $210. For me personally, and I don't want to say anything that's going to damage Elliot's business. If you're just looking for the knife to get the most out of it and it doesn't care how it looks and you're going to carry it as a work knife, this would be the way to go. $89. You're looking at a really good knife, and it's easy to maintain, easy to take care of, and easy to customize. I customized mine, black and black. I did all the screws and everything. and you really are getting into an incredibly good knife at $89. This one's $210, and it's just 100% to do with the increase in production. You know, this takes a lot more work to do a full titanium lock bar, a full titanium scale, and to do it, titanium's expensive, and so is carbon fiber. So you're just looking at an increase in price because of the materials. So if you're looking for a good old frame lock at the $200 price point and going to support an American designer, this would be something that I definitely would go with if that's what you're looking at. But having this in my collection, I don't see upgrading to this. So there you go, guys. Let's turn this around, do some final thoughts. This might be a little bit longer because I did kind of get into my rambling stage on a video, but yeah, absolutely great knife, beautiful with all these new upgrades. I think I would just, for me personally, I'm going to stick with this one. I don't think I would cough up the additional dough when I can get basically the same knife at a reduced price point, but it at least gives you options. So guys, let's turn this around, do some final thoughts, and get you out about your day. Guys, yeah, no first day in pockets. I mean, basically for all intents and purposes, it was the same knife. And I have to admit, I think I mentioned it at the tabletop, I'm a liner lock convert. You gain so much from a liner lock in comfort, you don't lose it. So at any rate, guys, that's it on this video. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down, but please try to tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple as like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. But if you hit the bell icon, make sure that you have notifications turned on your device. You will not get notified of these sometimes 3 items that I put up a day. Other ways you can do it, I believe I'm going to shoot a quick intro as my own sponsor since I can't get a sponsor. I have a bunch of ways that you can support the channel financially. Down below, I have a membership that's tier-based, gets you in on different benefits based on tier. Pick the tier that suits you best. But remember, everyone saves $5 off of my sharpening service, and everyone has access to my gilded server where we chat. Other ways you can do it, I have affiliate links down below, all kinds of stuff, Blade HQ, Coffee Brand Coffee, a VPN, and a whole list of things that I've built as EDC items, stones, tools. And the final way is I have a merchandise store on Ember Shirt Co. where you can buy shirts, not this shirt, but you can buy shirts with my logo on it. I've set up a coupon code that saves you 10% at checkout, and that coupon code is CrazySharp, all one word, capital C, capital S, CrazySharp, saves you 10% at checkout, works anywhere on Ember Shirt Co. If you send me pictures of you wearing my merchandise, I will put them in a video. Guys, I love y'all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and I will see you in the next video.